So many people.
I know. Very. Look at this. Hey,
Hey,
everybody.
I see some familiar faces.
I know. We'll do the old. What Robin likes to do. Christina may not know because she is not our usually co-host, but Robin likes to do the romper room thing, which Christina doesn't even know. Let's face it.
Tell
We'll
me.
tell you.
Tell me.
We'll tell you. We'll explain it later.
Okay.
But I know. Raise your hand if you know that reference, the romper room reference. There you go. Don't. Oh, Dennis, you too, huh?
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey Eileen, I don't see your picture, but I see you. So uh,
So many
Christina
wonderful
has a
people
very
here.
hard job today. She is co-host since our normal co-host, hey Robin, is a guest today. So it is Christina has to step up to the plate and be just as scintillating as our beloved Robin's.
What can I say? I shall try. I will do my
Okay.
best.
You know,
She's a tough act to follow.
she is always a tough act to follow. But we were talking about a good thing to chat about before we got on today. And one of the things that's nice about this festival and all the festivals at, Atlanta Harp Festival as well, is we try really hard to give credence to both the lever and the pedal harp. And the lever harp, especially since I've gotten into the business of harp, has gained so much popularity. And one of the reasons that we want to talk about this, I'm just kind of curious out there, and I know you can also raise your hand in the corner or down by where. What is that in chat? The hand raising thing,
Yeah, I
or
think
is it?
so. Oh, it's in
Yeah.
the section called React.
Oh, react. Oh, reactions over there. So if we don't see your beautiful face, I'd just like to see a show of hands of people, and I can point some of them out right away that have a lever and a pedal harp. How many of you have a lever and a
Mhm.
pedal harp? Yeah. And Robin, I thought you did. Yeah. How many of you are strictly lever players? I'll probably ask this again after more people go on. Strictly, okay. And
Aha.
do we have any strictly pedal players? I used to be, I'm converting over. But you,
Same.
Deb, you're in good company. Emmanuel raised his hand. But you do have a lever harp, right, Deb? Yeah, that's what I thought. So we're just curious. As you know, we had to kind of change our rules a little bit. Let's not go there. But if you want to go into the chat, what do you think? Yeah, I see those laughs. Are the pluses? I had a heart attack. A plus and the minuses of a lever versus pedal. Anybody want to throw anything in the chat? Or Katie, if they raise their hand, can you let them in individually?
So unmute them?
Yeah, if they raise
Yeah,
their
I can
hand.
unmute them if they raise their hand.
Okay. All right. Dennis is raising his hand. So Dennis, plus or
Let's hear it,
minus of
Dennis.
either one. We're just curious.
Uh,
Uh, uh, can you unmute Dennis? Oh,
or
you have to,
actually, I'll
Dennis, you have,
actually
Uh,
for a short time I will change the setting and they can unmute themselves, but
okay.
let us call out your name
ooh,
first before you unmute so that it's a little bit more structured.
Okay. Did you get that? So
smart.
for a brief set, just call out your name before you come on. So Dennis, I see you. There you
Okay,
go.
I can unmute now. Lever harp for many times is much easier to transport and do certain things with, especially if there's like not a lot of accidentals or whatever. Um, and I'm still kind of getting up on pedal harp, so
Definitely easier to transport. Yeah, no doubt.
but that's
Christina,
the
do
big
you?
thing for me is mostly being able to transport it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big thing, especially for some of us that are not as spry as we used to be. Christina, do you do gigs on your lever harp?
I used to. I haven't in many years, but when I was
Okay.
living in Rochester, I would go out and busk on my lever harp all the time. So, and that was really the first time I got back into lever harp is going out, taking it out and playing it at coffee shops and thrift stores and all sorts of places. So, that brought lever harp back into my life. I had not played and since I was a young person, since I first started. I, hadn't had lever harp in my life, but now it has been. I use it for teaching, but I don't have a lot of too many of those kinds of gigs these days, unfortunately. So it's
You
mostly
mean
for teaching and
the Alaska Symphony doesn't want you to bring your lever harp?
No, no, they don't ask for that, thank goodness. Yeah, flying with even the lever harp seems like a nightmare to me.
Yeah. Christina lives in Mississippi. I think a lot of you know Christina from just all sorts of places, but she also subs with the Alaska Symphony, right near Mississippi, if you know your geography.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all over the place always. I was in Miami 2 days ago. I go back in a couple days, so all over the place. It's the
Oh,
freelance in life.
to be young. Anybody else want to chime in what they feel like an advantage to either pedal or lever is? I think.
Well, I just had to buy a new car, and but I had to get one that would fit a pedal harp for the 2 times a year I move it. 'Cause
There you go.
so,
You have to be able to move it.
you got to
I
move
think the
it.
pedal
So,
harp's kind of getting left behind here in the pluses, but there are there's certain repertoire. I know Ray Poole does amazing thing, but of course there's just certain repertoire that just works better. I think on the pedal harp sometimes is easier. I see Lori shaking her head. Yeah, and Deb. Well, Deb, you know that because you tried to go back and forth for a while. I feel like going back and forth is the hardest. Like you either learn it on the lever harp or you learn it on the pedal harp. Does anybody else feel that way?
I
One way
think
or
Peter
another?
has something to say.
Oh, I could say a lot of things.
Peter,
But
hello.
hey, MJ.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So I think it's not so bad to switch back and forth. I think it just depends on the piece. So with pedal harp, it can be a little bit more graceful instead of flipping a ton of levers. But there's a lot of pieces I can play on either one, maybe with a few switches. Um, and someone mentioned, needing to get a car to move your pedal harp. One thing I recommend to people if they have a small car, if you need to move your pedal harp once or twice a year, just rent a car for those like 2 days, because it'll be a lot easier, and in the long run, it might be cheaper with fuel economy and things. But
We were
yeah,
very fortunate to have Peter as an employee, and I can tell you he's very good at being cautious and careful with money.
yes.
So I think that's that's a great suggestion. I hadn't actually thought about that.
Absolutely.
And I see Edward says he's been learning on a lever harp since he began to play. I think it's great to learn on any harp, but I think lever harps are very accessible and they're so, I feel like the advantage now to lever harp that just wasn't there for the longest time is the repertoire. It's crazy
Oh
good.
yeah,
There's
there's
so
so
much.
Mhm.
much good stuff. My students are bringing me new lever harp music all the time that it's mind blowing how good the repertoire is these days.
And
So
yeah,
much
and you
variety.
not just original, I mean, not just transcribed. There's transcribed that's getting better and better, but original as well. So, and actually, it's almost time. That is leading me directly into our trivia question for today. And the first person to get the answer right, this one's kind of easy, I have to tell you. On the chat will receive a Hanging with the Harp mug. Mine has broken, so right now I'm just got the Richmond mug. Uh, and a Hanging with the Harp bag. You get your Hanging with the Harp swag. So here's the question. As you know, one of our guests today is Emmanuel Padilla Holguín, and he is a master of Latin American music. So my question is, this is beginning the question, a pioneer in making Latin American music accessible, to harpists of every level and on every kind of harp. They started their career as a doctor before dedicating their life's work to harp. All right,
You should
everybody's
see the
laughing.
chat, MJ.
Oh, so
The
who
chat
got
was like boom,
first?
boom, 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 boom.
Okay,
Oh
who
my
got
goodness.
first? Deb Deer.
Deb.
So Deb, if you ever go to visit her, she could probably have a tea for all of us with her Hanging with the Heart mug. So she's quick. You should go on Jeopardy.
She really should. That was
We should have,
incredible.
that's what we'll do sometime. We'll have a harp Jeopardy. Robin,
Ooh.
take note. Yeah, a harp Jeopardy for Hanging with the Harp. But anyway, it's close to 4 o'clock and we have two of the amazing featured artists that will be at the festival, the Virginia Harp Center Festival. If you don't know about it, you can just go on to Virginia Harp Festival, virginiaharpcenterfestival.com. Hear all about it. Fabulous guests last month. Of course, we had Emily Levine and Charles Overton. And this week, this month, our featured artists are our very own Robbin Gordon-Cartier and Emmanuel Padilla Holguín. How was that? Did I almost get it right?
Almost so close.
Almost. Okay. Well, maybe you
What
can come to the festival and he'll teach you how to pronounce his name. So,
will be my work.
welcome, Emmanuel. It's so wonderful to have you, one of the premier artists in Latin American music on the harp scene today. A little bit about his background. I know you read about it, but and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you started basically in classical training, studied at the very prestigious Indiana University, and then really got interested in Latin American music. So I wondered what inspired your pursuit of Latin American music.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really interesting question. Now I like to reflect now with some perspective on how that happened. It's really interesting. Usually, harpists and general musicians in Latin America, even if they grow up in the classical music scene, we always have a little bit of a knack, of a bit of knowledge, a bit of interest in the traditional music of our country. It's very normal. But I did, not more than any other person, probably. And then I left for Indiana, and I was playing there with a lot of Latin American friends. There was a Latin American popular music ensemble. It was an actual class at IU. So that kept it alive for a long time. But actually the turning point was in 2016, when I won the Dutch harp competition. The prize was like a career coaching development program, something like that. It's what Remy called it. I remember after winning that night, we're just hanging out, having some drinks, and I asked him, I don't really understand what this is about, and he's like, don't worry, no one does. So he basically said, well, just think about anything you would like to do, to learn, projects you'd like to pursue, that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get from a school or any other institution. Anything, really. You have 10,000 euros. Go, think. So I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? And that really made me question, okay, what do I actually want from life, as a harpist at least, if not in general? And it was very interesting to go through that process. It felt like a responsibility to do something actually useful with that opportunity. And after a while, it took me a few months of thinking. I realized, yeah, I wanted to immerse myself in Latin American music, but in ways that I haven't been doing it, and that probably I would never have done it if I didn't have this opportunity through the Dutch competition. So I went to Argentina to learn at least a bit of basics of tango music, with Julian Peralta. He's an amazing pianist and composer. And I went to Cuba, to Havana, with Harold Lopez Nusa and his family of musicians, also to learn about son cubano, which is a specific genre of music. And either of those, either tango or son cubano, they do not involve any types of harp at all in their tradition. It's not like saying, oh, I want to learn music from Veracruz in Mexico, or from Colombia, Venezuela, the music from, like the arpa llanera music. All of those traditional genres have a type of harp, but this didn't, and I really liked them, and it was an opportunity to explore things that haven't really been done on the harp. So it was about that a bit, and from then, yeah, there was just snowball rolling, getting bigger and bigger.
So it's interesting that your first opportunity to start your journey was with a pianist.
Yeah, I mean, again, this type of music is not related to any type of harp at all, not really. I mean, the closest in general in harp music we get, for example, to tango, is music by Piazzolla. There's quite a few arrangements, especially by Maria Luisa Rayan, which are really great. But any Argentinian will tell you Piazzolla is not really tango. It's like the very light and friendly version of tango, which is amazing. It's really good music. But actually, tango is really ugly. Like it's really harsh. It's really something a bit different.
Huh.
Very, very interesting.
That's there's not a lot of harp music out there that can be described that way either. So you're kind of exploring this whole other side of our instrument. It's really interesting. How cool to get to play that kind of music on an instrument that's not always seen in that way.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, one of the main pieces that all of you for sure know that could be described as that is the Ginastera Concerto.
Absolutely, no question about that. That's really interesting.
No pun intended.
So,
It's Argentinian.
yeah. So, I mean, Latin America, you have so much Latin American music in your repertoire at this point. Do you have a favorite genre to play in within that kind of category of music?
I
I know,
wouldn't.
tough question. It's like asking you your favorite baby.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be able to choose. I right away I started thinking the ones that are in a way not so difficult because I enjoy it more because it's easier. But for example, tango is not one of them. It's really difficult to do that kind of stuff. Those kind of sonorities that are very harsh.
So is it
More
is it
disruptive.
is it more chromatically a challenge or rhythmically a challenge or both?
Actually, at first I thought chromatically it was going to be a problem because there are certain gestures that are completely chromatic, or they're just that gestures. So this teacher Julian was telling me, don't worry at all about the exact notes. It just needs to sound like this, and like and he make a weird sound. Uh,
I like that advice. Don't worry
yeah,
about the
yeah.
notes.
So it's much more about
Yeah, it's kind of freeing.
yeah, it's much more about character, completely about character. And in a way that does make it hard, especially yeah, I have a perfectly normal like standard education in classical music.
Do
So
you feel like classical music needs to be a little bit um, more like that in a way, a little bit more, um, what was the word you just used? Like,
ugly.
no, not ugly, but I guess visceral is what
Yeah,
I'm thinking. Just a little bit more, a little bit less attention because I think so many of us, I believe that 99.9% of all harpists are totally A types and we never want to make a mistake. So we're so focused on that that there are a lot of things that get lost. And it sounds really interesting to me that what you're talking about is completely different from that. I wish I could put more of that in my playing, just even in the classical genre.
no, I totally agree. I mean, there has to be a balance. It's not
Right.
everything about passion and and half the notes are correct. No, the message also doesn't get through if you do that. But I think we're a bit uptight in general, the harpists all over the world, because yeah, harp is difficult. We're a bit more afraid of making mistakes either with our hands or with our feet. But especially some genres are so much better if you let that go a little bit at least, or not be afraid of, for example, the quality of sound being a bit different. I'm not saying better or worse, just
Mm,
different.
yeah.
But yeah, it's
It
a
gives you
whole.
that opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to find your individual voice, your individual sound a little bit more authentically. I feel like you can really find the music that you love and explore it in a unique way. It's really interesting.
And I'm going
How,
to assume, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm going
no,
to
it's okay.
assume that that will be part of your repertoire for Sunday's concert. Emmanuel and Robbin will be playing the finale concert on the weekend of the festival, and I'm sure we're all hoping that there's a lot of examples of what you're talking about now.
Actually, now that I think about it, there is one. So not that many, but what you will be able to hear is very different styles, and I'm not even playing so many different pieces like from different countries or so. For example, half the recital is Spanish, but very different Spanish music stylistically. and from very different periods of time. Then I'm playing a piece by Bernard Andres, the Elegy.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorites.
Completely different. But yeah, the one piece I will be playing, that's at least on the program, from Latin America, that does have a very, very prominent folk element in it. It's the Danzón number 2 by Arturo Márquez, which you'll probably know as the orchestra piece. And yeah, the danzón is a type of dance, originally from Cuba, but then appropriated in Mexico, and it started to change here. And it's so fun because a lot of people, when they hear me play it, or they know that I play this piece and whatever, like, oh my God, it's so beautiful to dance to that music, right? So hype, so like high energy.
So we'll have a little dance floor put up on the side just in case. No.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fun because it does sound like very high energy, but the actual danzón dance is so much the opposite. It's very slow. There's not so much movement. It's very delicate. So it's very interesting.
That sounds wonderful. Can you tell us just a little bit about your classes? You are teaching the art of the steel and 3 centuries of Mexican harp music.
Yeah. So basically, the 3 centuries of harp music is Mexican harp music. Is more of a lecture conference-ish. It's just to show all of you how diverse Latin American harp repertoire, like for classical music, for pedal harp, how big it is, how diverse it is. And in specific, that day I'll be talking only about Mexican pedal harp music. In Latin America, especially in Argentina and Colombia, Venezuela, there's so much repertoire. It's unbelievable. Like in general, we can say that about the harp repertoire, like from any other place. We play so few pieces compared to how many are written for an instrument. And that's so the case with Latin American harp music. So in this case, I will be showing you the very first pedal harp piece that was written by a Mexican composer, down to one of the last. So in a way, how that the journey has been, how it has developed, how good music it is. And then the Art of the Steel is it's a fun name. I didn't come up with it. I think it was Megan or you, Mary Jane. But
must have been Megan.
yeah. So it's basically sort of like a talk lecture / workshop on arranging, but in specific on the nuances between what we call an arrangement, an adaptation, and a transcription. Many of us use those terms just like whatever, like they're the same thing. You understand what I mean. It's not original for the harp, but they are different, and at least I consider them very different, and I like to talk about that, what it implies, each of those, how to approach any of those things. I think it's very important to know what you are trying to do in specific when you choose a piece that is not original for instrument, to try to play it on the harp.
Wonderful. Well, Emmanuel's going to take us out with before Robbin comes in with a piece, but Emmanuel, can you turn your camera ever so slightly so people can see your beautiful harp? Will that work, or will that mess everything up?
Let's try it a little bit.
Emmanuel has a canopy. Can you guys see that? It's absolutely stunning. And I love the background. We need to make that an ad with that nice background. So, and what are you going to play for us today?
Yeah, I'm going to play the first 2 waltzes from the Valses Poéticos by Enrique Granados.
Great.
So that's going to be played in the closing concert in the festival. So just to give you a little taste of it. something like that.
Oh, it sounds
Bravo.
Something like that. Bravo.
yeah,
Beautiful
bravo.
playing.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in I think it's less than a month. So
Oh
I'm
my
really
God.
looking forward to your concert. And I want to thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, it is less than a month. Yeah, so exciting. Looking forward to seeing you
We
all.
are too, definitely we are too. And before we switch over to Robin, I just want to talk a little bit. We had a couple of other questions. I'm sorry, questions, comments. Amy, the quality of the lever harps definitely have improved since the 60s for sure. And another reason we're talking about this is because lever harp is a big part of what Robin's going to be talking about at the festival. But Jane says, I love being able to play both. Her lever harp is so much easier to transport. Yes. And she did get a lever harp with pedal tension strings, which makes it easier to switch back and forth. I think we could do a whole hang on this too about that, the tension of the strings and all that stuff. So I just wanted to um, get those comments acknowledged. And Pam says truly lovely, which I think we all agree with for sure. And without further, unique and enchanting, absolutely, that's perfect. But I think it's time to move on to our next guest. I don't know, Christina, does she need an introduction, do you think?
Nope.
I mean, I think yeah, no, nope. Oh, Robin, we
You
love
got
you
to stay
so
on
much.
time.
Yes, we got to stay on time. No intro for Robin. Everyone here knows our wonderful Robin. So Robin, for the people here that don't know your backstory, I know a lot of us do, but tell us about your harp origin story. Did you aspire to be a harpist and a professional harpist when you were growing up?
Wow, I wonder how many years ago I started telling the truth instead of saying, yes, I just love the harp always,
Well,
I
we only want the truth. We only
I
want the
forget when
truth.
that broke down, but in my house, and you know what? I can't see any of you. Now I can. No, I can't. In my household, you had to do a musical instrument. I have an older brother, younger brother. We grew up and everyone had to play an instrument. It was kind of, the same way you had to go to school. And so I started off on piano with my aunt who lived down the street. So that was my Saturday mornings. But I didn't like piano and I didn't like my aunt at that time because when you study with a relative, they can hit you, they can keep you there all day to do other things besides playing the piano. And there was really no reason that I wanted to walk past all of my friends and go do music. And so my parents said I could pick another instrument. And I did, but I didn't because I wanted to. I picked the instrument I thought I couldn't get. So I said I wanted to play the harp, like David in the Bible, because my grandfather was a minister. And I just thought it was something, not accessible, not to me, surely in the early 60s. And then I figured if by any chance they got one, at least it was a dirty instrument, because the only place I really had seen it was on the Munsters. Some of you know the Munsters with Lily, right? With
Yeah.
Lily and the dusty harp. So at least, and all she did was this. And I said, well, if I have to, I could do that. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to play with my Barbie dolls and Jacks. That was my aspirations for my life. I thought it was a good one. And for 6 months, I got to do that. And then after 6 months, the same lady who was my piano teacher, along with my mother, they conspired and they took me to a lady and she opened the door and her house was full of harps. And there you go.
The rest is history.
Well, the rest
Wow,
is history. And the
that's
love came.
incredible.
Look at me. I'm like,
Incredible.
gotta shut up.
Yeah, what an incredible story. So you've performed throughout the US. So many of us here have seen you perform live. I know the first time I ever had the chance to meet you, it was in Orlando, Florida, at one of those big fests that Jan Jennings puts on, and I had
Oh,
the pleasure of meeting you then and getting to know you and helping you move some instruments, and it was such a lovely experience. Do you have any favorite memories from any of your performances around this beautiful country that you can share with us?
You know, it's funny. I think the performance is the thing, right? It's the part that you have built up to when we were younger and lived in Ireland in the summer. So in the summer when we played, what was fun about that was there was never vehicles that could take our harps. People think, oh, you went to Ireland, you must just be so versed in the Celtic harp. But no, we flew our pedal harps to Ireland. We didn't study Celtic harp. We played our pedal harps. And so when we would have a job, they would come and get us like in horse and buggies. So our harps would be laying it on top of hay and all types of stuff. And we really, as kids, we thought it was just hysterical. So we really, really loved that. So I love my days in Ireland when we used to just kind of sling the harps any kind of way possible. We just did. And the things that go wrong are the things that tend to stick out the most, the funny things. When you're playing a gig and there's all those cicadas, and you literally, even with speakers, can't hear anything but the music, but the bugs, and you're just trying to, brush them off yourself and all of that kind of stuff. So that sticks in my mind. And then I guess Carnegie Hall, we were playing with an organist and we were playing Greensleeves. And we were little, but I remember he just always was like, slower, slower, you're too fast. Because children, what do we like to do the best? If it's not fast, we don't feel like playing it. So that sticks in my mind, and probably the mind of my friends at that time, Odarka Stockard, Karen Stern, Stacy Shames. We were all in a harp ensemble together wearing hideous green skirts and white shirts. So fun times.
Wow, that's incredible. So was this a public school program that you were a part of, or a community program that you were a part of?
This was a lady named Leon Paulson who we would go to her house for lessons. Her house was full of harps, and then every summer she would take about 15 of us away for July and August for 8 weeks. For 8 weeks. And so
Wow.
from the age 9, every summer I spent, first 2 years was in Vermont. I went to the Johnson State University and learned how to do music theory. And then I didn't go to Ireland the first year. By the time they got back, the next year I went. So I don't know whether I was just a horrible kid. That's what I thought all growing up, that I was so bad. But my mother told me later on, she said, well, everybody came back alive. So then I went, and we went to the Royal Irish Academy of Music. I learned all about my crotchets and quavers and all that kind of stuff. And it was just really, when I look back on it, it was kind of crazy. All you had to do for my teacher was practice from breakfast to lunch. Then after lunch you could go out, and then you had to practice like from dinner. Every day we practiced about 8 hours, and
Wow.
marathons, just waiting for her to come to give lessons. She would hop. So it was no school. It was just this one lady, Leon Paulson, who produced so many people, friends of mine now, who play and
That's
are
that's an
harpists and are teachers.
extraordinary experience, just extraordinary to be that age. I didn't start until I was in high school, but and yes, the harpist that she has brought into the world, I guess, Stacy Seamus, she, a lot of the big New York players, and you, Odarka, Karen Stern, yeah, you mentioned a few of them, but that's pretty amazing. I often wonder, Robin, with all the talking we do, I don't think I've ever asked you. So you perform and you teach and you're a clinician. You do a lot of going around to just about every festival, um, you know, presenting classes. If you had to pick a favorite of those three parts, what would you say you enjoy doing the most?
I would pick conferences. Clinician. One, I do like to travel. And it's funny to say that because most of the time when you travel, you don't really end up seeing the place that you've gone to, but at least you can see, you can say you were there. I was in Switzerland, that type of thing. I really love it. Back in one of my careers when I was a restaurant like troubleshooter, I used to travel and go fix restaurants and stay like for 3 months and give them all heck and then come back. So I love the notion of going somewhere and fixing something, or at least giving people things to think about that might change the direction they're going. So as a clinician, you get to go meet such enthusiastic, enthusiastic people. It was your beginning in the middle, you and Kim Rose conference that I came to as a participant that really was the first time, and now I'm in my 30s, that the harp started to be something I loved and not just something I did. Because all of these people who couldn't play at all were so happy and they loved the harp and they loved their instruments. And I was like, well, wow, you're really ungrateful because you're just doing this like a job and they're happy playing this. And so I really just love the energy. I love meeting new people. I love flapping my lips so and telling people what to do.
Why don't you tell us a
What
little
a
bit about what,
perfect way. Yeah.
there you go, what you will be sharing information-wise at the festival.
And I really hope to see everyone there. I've got one of the classes, and now look at me, I'm trying to say, what was the name of that class again? I know what I'm doing, but the names usually elude me.
It's
But the one that is,
accidentally in love.
see, yeah. Well, let's go to classical favorites for your favorite harp. One of the things that is really fun when you perform is when people are excited because they recognize what you played. So even among all the beautiful, beautiful harp repertoire, you can sit there playing your fingers off and then all of a sudden play Ode to Joy and people's heads turn like, oh, or Fur Elise. They're like, oh, I played that when I was in the piano. So this class, we're going to just start looking at some of those and looking at easy ways to add it to your repertoire without buying a whole bunch of new books, without doing too much of anything, but going back to what you knew of those. So that's going to be the classical repertoire. The Accidentally in Love is really my favorite. We're going to be talking about accidentals, about how to stop avoiding them. I didn't get to see the poll because, I was in the green room, but y'all were talking about lever harps versus pedal harps. And I really love the fact that the lever harp can do so much. Now, a lot of us don't do it because it's nerve wracking and because, you move a wrong lever and you're sometimes a little more sunk than when you move a wrong pedal. It's a lot more to look at to figure out. But we are going to do some drills. We are going to get you moving your levers. And then also we've got the class for just pedal harpists. Lever harpists can come too. And we're going to get those feet moving. We're going to stop just playing in one key. We're going to stop being lazy. We're going to, remember, y'all put our feet to the other side and let the left foot move the E pedal and all of that kind of stuff, and do a lot of pedal slides and just have some fun. And more importantly, we're going to be hanging on that first day. I'll be with MJ and my friends. We're going to have a live hang. I hope you guys, there's still time to come. I hope you'll all sign up and come. I think
Well,
that's all I'm thinking,
thanks for
right?
mentioning the live hang because you will not see us the third Tuesday of March for the first time since we started, which was right when COVID hit. We will not be the third Tuesday. We will literally be live at the festival from 3:30 to 5. If you're coming, try to get there on Friday afternoon. Christina will be our tech person, and yeah, we'll be there and we'll have two special guests. We'll have Crossing from Classical to Celtic. Once again, talking about lever and pedal, and that's with Janet Whitman. And then Magical Mystery Tour, the music behind the magic. Dr. Lynn Asmus, just one of the best teachers out there. So it's going to be really fun, 3:30 to 5. We're hoping to have a special guest. We'll keep you posted on that, won't we, Robin?
Yes, we're going to have one. It might be one of you. So you got to show up. You never know.
Uh, and just a couple other things that are happening there. This really got my niece excited. She's not a harpist, but she's going to try to come. There's going to be an afternoon tea. And what that is Marianne Meyer, one of the best harpists in Philly and in anywhere, actually, classically, and she does a lot of gigging. She's going to be the background music for a tea, and she's going to play all Taylor Swift music. So that'll excite some people for sure. And she's also giving a class, a gigging harpist survival guide. I will be there for sure. She always has such good insight, such wonderful insight into gigging. There's harp tasting with Therese Hurley, a fabulous player. She's one of our New Jersey Virginia Harp Center team. And there's also the exhibit hall. The advantage to coming there to the festival is you have like every harp that you've ever wanted to try well, maybe not every harp, but a lot of harps that and you can just play them. So we'll definitely have the exhibit hall up and running during the festival. But yeah, still time to sign up. We would definitely love to see you there. I've already looked through the pile of names, and I do see a couple people I recognize, and I'm looking forward to you guys. If you're coming, please be there. We need to make sure we have a couple right people at the live hang. So Robin, you are actually going to take us out with your what are you well, what do you tell us a little bit about what you're playing on Sunday, and then tell us what you'll be playing today.
Okay, well, and I'm like, take us out. Wait a minute. It's 4:30. Oh wow, somebody just made me real big in my own face without me even asking. So there I am. Hi, Robin. Um, Really, with the concert, I'm gonna be playing some of the medleys. I'm gonna be playing both pedal and lever harp. That is the plan. But I might change it because so far I've seen three pedal harps, so I might have to stick it up for the lever harp girls and guys. And so I might be switching that. But I'm gonna play a lot of what we're talking about, medleys of some popular pieces, some pieces that we know. I'm gonna play my favorite. I would say the biggest thing that has changed in my career as it is, as I get older, and one of the reasons I really like traveling and meeting and seeing other people is that music has changed. You talked about pedal to lever. When I started, you were on that troubadour, you learned your little fountain, and you went from your little fountain to your Handel's concerto. And when you turned that first page and you needed that A sharp, the teacher said she needs a pedal harp. And that was how it went. There was no use the B flat instead. There was no enharmonic thought at all. And that was kind of how we went. And then as the lever harp started evolving and people started saying, well, wait a minute, you can play in more than one key. Well, wait a minute, you can do more than one things. It started to become something that was not only feasible, but it really opened the harp world up to our students and to people and made it possible that they could start without having to, rob a bank first. And then they got so good that they could buy both. You talked about playing both, and someone said that the switch was sometimes hard. I find the switch, it's awful fun. And there are some things that you can really love about a lot of things. And for me, I have a little trouble with one of my legs. So sometimes there are some songs that are on the lever harp that are really my favorite to play that I don't play on the pedal harp anymore because the feet are like, mm. But after my class, my feet are going to be better just like yours. So today I just wanted to play a little bit of one of the songs that kind of inspires my love of lever harp. We'll see if that helps. And the love of the fact that because of my travels, I got to meet Louise Trotter, who arranged this version of Summertime. And it was in Arizona at the Jazz Fest when I heard her play Summertime on a lever harp. And I mean, I guess I had to be the snobbiest snob because I was like, you can't play that. What? Well, I was sitting there trying to figure out how she did what she did because you couldn't play that on the lever harp. There were too many key changes. There were too many things. And I hadn't met her before. I went right up to her and I asked that. And she just started laughing and she was like, darling, you just tuned the harp in two different keys. You can do anything. And so that was for me when I was like, oh, okay. And then the other thing that I love, and one of the things that I'm starting to delve in and do a lot of work in is playing music from our contemporary composers. As we talked about, and as we said, for the lever and pedal harp, there wasn't a whole lot of repertoire that wasn't transcriptions. It was somebody rewrote this and someone rewrote that. And we have so many composers now coming out and writing music specifically for us. And so I'm going to kind of mix match right now and go from Louise Trotter's version of Summertime with a piano introduction. So that's what we're going to be doing in our class, taking some things and making it fit into Charlene Wallace is a harpist in Canada who just is a beautiful player and has just gorgeous, gorgeous music that I never would have even known until I went to South Dakota and there it was. And I went to this conference and I met someone that I wouldn't have seen on screen. And then I look up her music. And so I'm going to play her Griffin's Dream. So Summertime into Griffin's Dream. And then y'all are going to cut me off. Yes?
Robin, one thing before you start, I just want to thank Katie today. Katie is our tech because we are an
Yes.
Atlanta Harp Center event, except next month we will be Virginia Harp Center, and we will miss having her as part of our family there. She has to hold down the fort in Atlanta. But Katie is always our trusty tech and puts up with a lot.
Oh, and there's Christina with her check. There's the hearts going. See, we know how to do all that. And I thank Christina for being in my seat, but get out of it. You're getting out, kicking you out.
Don't worry, it's all yours. It's all yours.
Y'all ready for me? Yes? It's so weird looking at me so big over there.
What a way to end the session, Robin. That was beautiful. I love watching you play. You always look so happy, and your heart comes out in your music. It's beautiful. So,
My happy place. Come to Virginia, y'all.
We hopefully will see you there. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you so much, Robin. And we will see you Friday, March 14th at 3:30 for our live hang. Thanks everybody for being here.